Right now, some part of your brain is picturing something that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's tonight's dinner or some probable event that's not until a year from now. Although it might feel completely ordinary, it isn't. Almost no other creature on Earth can do it. 100,000 years ago, someone used that same trick and reached for a lump of red ochre, not to eat or trade it, but to place it in a grave. In 2016, in a cave called Tinshemet, central Israel, a team led by archaeologist Yossi Zeidner starts pulling back the soil. 9 years later, in 2025, they publish what they found. 5 bodies, somewhere between 100 and 110,000 years old. Each one folded at the knees and placed on its side. Not just fallen, but very carefully arranged. Beside them lies more ochre, basalt pebbles, and animal remains that definitely are not leftovers. Zeidner called it a revolutionary innovation for our species. And even more interestingly, it's not even the oldest example we've got. If you go back further, to 2 other caves, Skhul and Qafzeh, both in Israel. Dating this far back is messy. The estimates stretch from 90,000 to 120,000 years. But every estimate lands before agriculture, before anything we'd call organized religion. This wasn't a ritual borrowed from somewhere else. There was nowhere else. This might be where the behavior itself starts. And once you start looking, it's not just bodies in pits. At Skhul, one skeleton was buried holding the jaw of a wild boar. At Qafzeh, a child was found with deer antlers laid across the chest. These aren't the marks of disposal, they're the marks of a decision. So archaeologists started asking the obvious question: why? 3 answers kept coming up. None of them fully agree. The first, grief. Something in us couldn't just walk away. The second, hygiene. A corpse left in a shared cave draws disease. This seems a bit practical and cold, but reasonable. But it doesn't explain the ochre. Why paint a color onto someone who can't see it? And finally, the third theory is the one that doesn't let you look away. Some of these people may have believed something continued. Not proof of an afterlife. Proof somebody was already imagining one. But that's still just the surface. The strangest part is underneath it. Because grief, hygiene, belief, none of them explain where this ability came from. All 3 assume the hard part was already solved. The hard part is this. To bury someone on purpose, you have to picture a future they're not in. You have to run a scene forward, which hasn't happened yet, and place yourself outside of it. That's not memory. Memory only looks backward. This looks forward and it imagines an ending. Let's watch it happen. The same way it might have happened the first time. A body, dead for days. The smell alone should be reason enough to leave. But someone crouches. Instead of backing away, starts digging. Not fast and panicked, but deliberate. Some others chooses ochre, a color that means nothing practical at all, and someone folds the knees, positions the arms, decides how this should look. Not for the body, as it can't see it. For whoever comes back to this spot, or maybe for themselves, imagining it. This scene is exactly when dying stopped being just an event. It became something you could picture happening to you. Psychologists even have a name for the skill underneath this. Thomas Suddendorf and Michael Corballis called it mental time travel. Built on something Endel Tulving had already found. Memory that replays specific moments, not just facts. That same replay mechanism, run forward instead of back, lets you preview a moment you're not in yet, including the one at the very end. Burial isn't a tradition someone invented. It's a side effect. The exhaust of a mind that learned to simulate its own absence. Every animal that ever lived has died. Almost none of them ever knew it was coming. A deer doesn't bury its dead. It doesn't need to. It never sees its own ending. Somewhere around 100,000 years ago, one species crossed a line no one marked, because it could run the tape forward far enough to see its own ending on it. And it couldn't just sit with that. So it dug, it placed ochre, it folded the knees just so, not because it understood death, because it couldn't stop picturing it. The grave is not the answer to death. The grave is the proof that the question had already arrived, and that question never left. It's still running in you right now. Every plan past next week, every someday, every version of your life that you'd rehearsed which hasn't happened yet. That's the same faculty, unbroken, for 100,000 years. You didn't inherit a fear of death from a culture or religion or an upbringing. You inherited the one skill that makes fearing it possible at all. The same imagination that plans your next year is the one that can picture its last day. You can't have one without the other. They're the same wire. 100,000 years ago, that wire lit up for the first time we can find. And somebody, instead of walking away, knelt down, reached for the ochre, and decided that this, imagining an ending, was worth marking. You're not morbid for picturing your own ending sometimes. You're just running the oldest program the species ever wrote, the one that turned a body on the ground into a grave, and turned a passing thought into a future.